Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include a summary of everything that's happened in the Activision Blizzard saga throughout the week, promising new updates coming to Diablo 2 Resurrected, a roundup of other ARPG news, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below. But right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now, before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I built my website, Riker.com, using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself quickly and easily, and with zero education in the field. All thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Watch how easily I update my Diablo 3 page to add the new Season 25 info. Just a few intuitive clicks, no knowledge of coding required, absolutely painless. I've never had an easier time making a professional looking website. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. And Squarespace is currently offering my viewers 10% off your first purchase with them. Just go to squarespace.com/Riker or click the link in the description to sign up and start building your online presence. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Riker to get started today. Alright, in our first story, let's do a summary roundup of all the terrible Activision Blizzard headlines of the week. As this ongoing story of a company in turmoil plagued with allegations of mistreatment of women and employees has continued to unfold for months now. And every time I think it's over, another season of the drama releases like Game of Thrones. Well, it's not exactly like Game of Thrones, since Game of Thrones, has scenes with men forcing themselves onto women or threatening to kill them. So, it's pretty much exactly like Game of Thrones, actually. A massive piece of investigative journalism released this week by the Wall Street Journal that included a number of damning allegations against Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick. While Kotick's defense over the past few months has been to plead ignorance over all the harassment allegedly going on in his company, the Wall Street Journal alleges that he knew a lot more than he's letting on. That he actually protected an executive from being fired after a harassment claim was made against him. That he withheld knowledge of multiple harassment incidents from the board of directors. That he himself has had a number of harassment claims made against him in the past. And that a very long time ago, in a fit of rage, he even threatened to kill his female assistant over voicemail. And that last one isn't even an allegation. An Activision spokesperson said, quote, Mr. Kotick quickly apologized 16 years ago for the obviously hyperbolic and inappropriate voicemail, and he deeply regrets the exaggeration and tone in his voicemail to this day. In a separate incident, he was being sued by the flight attendant on a private jet he co-owned for firing her after she complained about harassment, and Kotick allegedly told the flight attendant and her attorneys, quote, I'm going to destroy you. But a spokesperson for Kotick claims he never said that, despite it allegedly being sworn testimony. I don't know, maybe he said, I am going to destroy you. Now, the executive that Kotick allegedly protected was Dan Bunting, the co-head of Treyarch, a studio under Activision. Or at least he was the co-head for 18 years until just recently when the Wall Street Journal started asking questions. And then he suddenly stepped down. He was accused of harassment in 2017, and an internal investigation in 2019 allegedly recommended that he be fired, but Kotick intervened to simply give him a slap on the wrist instead. There were other instances of employees being disciplined or fired over misconduct matters, and this was allegedly kept hush-hush. Another factoid that emerged was that the nasty company-wide email sent by Fran Townsend. You folks remember that? The one that made her a pariah, forcing her to disappear from the public eye, shut down her social media profiles, and even step down from her position. The one in which she flaunted her position as the executive sponsor of the company's women network, and in which she dismissed and downplayed all the harassment allegations? Yeah, Bobby Kotick himself wrote that email, not Fran Townsend. Nope. And not allegedly, he did. Activision admitted it. And then remember how after that email, we got the public message from Bobby Kotick calling Fran's message tone deaf? Yeah, the message that he wrote and forced her to send under her name. Then he publicly criticizes that message so that he looks like the good guy as Fran gets thrown under the biggest bus of the decade. A spokesperson for Activision told the Wall Street Journal that Kotick takes responsibility for and regrets his participation in the Townsend letter, and added, quote, "Miss Townsend should not be blamed for this mistake." And because I know everyone always questions the legitimacy of these investigations and where this information is coming from, well, the Wall Street Journal says that it looked at dozens of internal documents and spoke to many people over the past few months. In response to the Wall Street Journal's article, Bobby Kotick himself issued a public statement stating, quote, "There's an article today that paints an inaccurate and misleading view of our company, of me personally, and my leadership. Anyone who doubts my conviction to be the most welcoming, inclusive workplace doesn't really appreciate how important this is to me." Activision Blizzard as a company then issued a public response to the article as well, stating, quote, "We are disappointed in the Wall Street Journal's report, which represents a misleading view of Activision Blizzard and our CEO. The Wall Street Journal ignores important changes underway to make this the industry's most welcoming and inclusive workplace. At Mr. Kotick's direction, we have made significant improvements, including a zero-tolerance policy for inappropriate conduct." For anyone hoping that this latest fiasco would be Kotick's undoing, that the board of directors would turn on him and oust him, well, they said, quote, "The board remains confident that Bobby Kotick appropriately addressed workplace issues brought to his attention. And the board remains confident in Bobby Kotick's leadership commitment and ability to achieve these goals." Or maybe Bobby wrote that message as well. Who knows? You know, it's really interesting that Blizzard games keep repeating the same cliched redemption arcs for truly despicable villains who have done completely unforgivable things. Now, about the board, here's the thing. Bobby Kotick has a clause in his contract, something like if he's ever fired, he leaves with a $300 million golden parachute. So, you know, maybe, just maybe, the board isn't exactly eager to pay the man $300 million to leave. Yet. Now, the board of directors consists of 10 people, and allegedly most were put in their position on the board by Kotick himself, or they're close friends of his. However, a person close to the board of directors allegedly told Fortune.com that Kotick is unlikely to retain their support if any more bad news comes to light. At this point, I can't possibly imagine what worse could come to light. But then again, every time I think this story can't get any worse, hey, here we are. Next week's headline: Bobby Kotick revealed to be Lord Voldemort. Oh, but for the time being, his support remains strong, as in an internal live-streamed all-hands meeting, the company continued to defend Kotick, according to outlet Game Developer. Along with reiterating what was said publicly in defense of Kotick, the meeting revealed that the company would be extending Thanksgiving break to a full week, which I'm sure isn't to try to stop any headlines by keeping employees out of striking range of the office. They also addressed the employee question about whether the company's new zero-tolerance policy toward harassment would apply to Kotick himself. And the answer was, well, there's no hard evidence of the claims against Kotick since, you know, these incidents happened over a decade ago, so, you know. Now, we even learned this week why, allegedly, Jen O'Neill stepped down as new co-leader of Blizzard Entertainment. We reported on this just 2 weeks ago and found it very suspicious. Well, after about a month into her 3-month tenure as co-boss, she sent a scathing internal email saying that she didn't think leadership could fix the company's culture problems and that she herself had been harassed in the past. She said it was clear that the company would never, quote, prioritize our people the right way. And she added, quote, "I have been tokenized, marginalized, and discriminated against. and it has now been corroborated by herself and her co-leader Mike Ibarra that Mike Ibarra was paid more than she was. Yes, as the company was facing a gender pay discrimination lawsuit from the government, they hired a woman to be a co-boss with a man and paid her less than the man. 800 IQ move. And allegedly, O'Neill and Ibarra made multiple requests for pay parity between themselves and were rejected multiple times. Ibarra addressed the matter in internal messages that were leaked to IGN, explaining that he and O'Neill had pre-existing contracts for their previous positions. He was in charge of BattleNet and online products, she ran Vicarious Visions, and so those positions had different salaries, and so when they were promoted to co-leaders, it didn't come with a pay raise. You know, lots more responsibility, same pay. It's not like these were token positions. But Ibarra said that when they were both offered new contracts, the new contracts were for equal pay. However, O'Neill allegedly responded by saying that it was only once she handed in her resignation that the company finally offered her a contract with pay equal to Ibarra. And speaking of Mike Ibarra, for perhaps the first time, his name is coming up in a negative headline. Tracy Kennedy, a producer on Overwatch, was criticizing him on Twitter for being a distant leader. She said, quote, "Dude, watching everyone praise him for his amazing leadership, when 3 months in, he hasn't even met with devs once to introduce himself, but has somehow had the time to tweet daily and run mythic keys, seemingly during work hours, is infuriating." Now, despite this heated comment, public opinion doesn't seem to have fully swayed against Ibarra. Some folks have been pointing out that we don't really know what the division of duties was between Ibarra and O'Neill, and he just now became full leader of Blizzard, and he's also not in charge of running the games, but rather running the company, so it's not his job to directly deal with developers. Anyway, the story goes on. After the article by the Wall Street Journal and Activision Blizzard's public response, Activision Blizzard employees hastily organized a walkout, just like in 2 hours, in protest. So despite only the 2 hours notice, and despite having a large amount of their workforce still working remotely, they managed to get 150 people to walk out in front of the Blizzard headquarters, demanding that Bobby Kotick be replaced as CEO. And some other employees also joined in spirit remotely by stopping their work for the day. Then the ABK Workers Alliance published a document calling for Bobby Kotick's removal, which has, as of the time of this recording, been signed by over 1,300 employees of Activision Blizzard, representing roughly 15% of the company's workforce of around 9,500. Then, after the employee walkouts, a group of shareholders even banded together and called for Bobby Kotick's resignation. Together, the group holds 4.8 million shares of Activision Blizzard stock, which sounds impressive, but it amounts to roughly 0.6% of the total Activision Blizzard shares. And it's actually only just a bit more than the number of shares that Bobby Kotick holds himself, which is 3.9 million. Well, after all this, some other big names in the gaming industry have criticized Activision Blizzard. According to Bloomberg, President and CEO of PlayStation, Jim Ryan, stated in an email to his employees that he and his leadership were, quote, disheartened and frankly stunned to read that Activision has not done enough to address a deep-seated culture of discrimination and harassment. He went on to say that they reached out to Activision immediately after the Wall Street Journal article was published to express their deep concern and to ask how they plan to address the claims made in the article. Quote, "We do not believe their statements of response properly address the situation." Now, PlayStation has a pretty close relationship with Activision. The two companies have worked together on big marketing deals as recently as this year's Call of Duty Vanguard, which included exclusive content for PlayStation. Not only that, but PlayStation is one of the major platforms through which Activision Blizzard sells their products. Now, not that it would happen, but if PlayStation decided to ban Call of Duty games from their platform, well, that would seriously hurt Activision Blizzard's pocketbook. But it didn't end there. The head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, said in an email to staff, which was seen by Bloomberg, that he's, quote, evaluating all aspects of our relationship with Activision Blizzard and making ongoing proactive adjustments. And he also said that he and the leadership team are disturbed and deeply troubled by the horrific events and actions at Activision Blizzard. Now, throughout all this, Activision Blizzard shares have continued to drop. As of this recording, we've seen a 13% drop since the Wall Street Journal dropped their bombshell, which represents a 40% drop since a high in February 2021. But equity analysts from Raymond James state that in the investor community, perceptions of Kotick are generally positive because under his watch, nonetheless, Activision Blizzard has experienced remarkable growth over the decades, and because he still maintains clear internal support by his board. Been a big week. Nice season finale. Wonder what next season will bring. But in the meantime, in other news, Path of Exile has shared a calendar of upcoming December events. The full announcement will be shared next week, but they're planning 6 event types that'll begin in early December and run through the first week of January. Endless Delve will make a return, a couple special versions of Path of Exile Royale, a Gauntlet event, and more. Check the link in the description for full details. In last Epoch news, we got the release date reveal of the Eternal Legends update. It'll come December 10th, and include the game's first endgame dungeon and the rise of legendary tiered items. It'll also include the Druid rework, new models for the Sentinel Mage and Acolyte classes, a revamped crafting system, new unique items, and much more. In Grim Dawn news, Grim Dawn will be releasing on Xbox on December 3rd, with pre-orders opening on November 22nd. And the Xbox version will be a definitive edition of the game that includes all the expansions and free content updates. Grim Dawn is one of this generation's solid ARPGs. You can check out my video for an overview of the game. In Lost Ark news, the Western release date has allegedly been leaked, January 2022. As per Redditor Sokenbot, he claims that a foreign language streamer who is part of Lost Ark's content creator program stated on stream, quote, "Lost Ark is going to be released on January. I know the date. It isn't accurate that it is going to be released on January 3rd, but it's going to be on January." Now, this was in response to a rumor that the game would be releasing on January 3rd. Just take this with a grain of salt. I can't corroborate or validate the legitimacy of this. I can't even tell if the translation is accurate. In Diablo news, starting briefly with Diablo 3, the PTR has ended, and so everyone is wondering, when does Season 25 start? Well, we don't have an answer yet, but we know that for the last while, there have been either 5 or 12 days between the season end and the start of a new season. We know that typically seasons end on a Sunday, new seasons begin on a Friday, and we typically get 2.5 weeks notice before a season end. So that puts us at either December 10th or December 17th for the start of Season 25, with Season 24 ending either on December 5th or 12th. Just a guesstimate. In Diablo 2 Resurrected news, we got official confirmation that the data-mined skill bars for mouse and keyboard are in fact coming to the game. In a blog post, the devs detail a number of improvements and features coming to D2R, including quick cast and active skill binding options for mouse and keyboard. You'll be able to opt into using the active skill bindings bar, which will display up to 16 skills on a new bar by your health globe. And then you can also choose to enable the quick cast skills option, which will make pressing the button instantly cast the selected skill rather than just change to the skill. Furthermore, a new force move keybind has been added, which is a common feature in modern ARPGs that makes your character move to your cursor's location without accidentally attacking the monster that you're mousing over. Also, offline difficulty scaling via the /players command is coming to console now. Also, DLSS support is being added for graphical improvements on Nvidia cards. And the devs also spoke of a PTR coming with future updates. In the coming weeks, they'll launch the first ever public test realm for D2R, where we can, quote, test balance, bug fixes, and other enhancements to the game. It's happening, folks! It's happening! The first PTR will be focused on fixing server issues, but once they're confident in the servers, they'll share more details on ladder rank play and, quote, even more new changes coming to Diablo 2 Resurrected. This, folks, this is the strongest suggestion that real, significant changes may come to D2R. And speaking of real significant changes, Project Diablo 2 has announced that Season 4 will begin on December 3rd, with closed beta running from November 23rd to the 30th and open beta happening on November 30th to December 1st. Project Diablo 2 is the fan-made mod project that seeks to be what Diablo 2 would have been today if the devs had never stopped updating the game. And Season 4 will bring new endgame maps, more farming areas, a new system that has random events spawn within maps, like the Horizon event that spawns a summoner in your map, and if you kill him, a map opens within your map, cause yo dog. There's a Dark Wanderer event, which will transform into a super unique or an act boss. There's the Treasure Fallen event, similar to a Diablo 3 Treasure Goblin. There's the Shadow of Mendeln event, which has a Necromancer spawn and then summon waves upon waves of undead for you to defeat. And then there's the Butcher event, which, well, we'll keep that one a secret.
Fresh meat.
There's also a bunch of skill reworks. They added auto gold pickup, new rune words, new PvP arenas, a new endgame Uber fight against Rothma himself, new ultra rare items, some shrine reworks, improvements to pet and mercenary AI, and more. And that is going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which we discussed the Diablo 3 Season 25 PTR updates. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.